right. Brad Lander is a Brooklyn dad, a public servant, and New York City's controller who spent his career fighting for affordable housing, workers' rights, and government accountability. He stood up to Donald Trump and Elon Musk when they tried to steal $80 million in taxpayer funding from the city because they're that petty. Welcome to Gaslit Nation, New York City's next mayor, Brad Lander.
It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, I first learned about you from hardcore Gaslit Nation listeners who are on the front lines of fighting for our democracy, who are in the trenches election after election, getting out the vote. They helped launch the Tesla takedown protests. They showed up to Schumer's house when he changed his mind last minute on, with the whole budget showdown earlier this year. So my most dedicated, resourceful community organizer power listeners were like, Brad Lander, we're at Brad Lander's office today. We're working out of his office. Like for years now, I've heard about you and your rise through New York City politics. So it's an honor to finally meet you.
It's great to be here. And yeah, look, that's my model, is that inside outside work where people are fighting and building power on the outside, and they could be excluded workers or deliveristas like I was out there with today, or grassroots activists at Tesla takedown. They're building power on the outside. I'm working the levers on the inside, and it's a deep partnership both to make change, to fight corruption, and to build real democracy.
Absolutely. And we always tell our listeners, it is dark out there. Like, believe your eyes, believe your ears. This really is oligarchy rising, fueled by Republican fascism. But the way we get through it is not despair. We have no choice but to build political power. And we need to flood the system with Brad Landers.
I'll just say, last Thursday was like a crazy split screen day because Eric Adams went down to the White House and humiliated our city in front of Donald Trump, while Ras Baraka in Newark showed what it looks like when a mayor stands up and fights together with activists for the rule of law and their immigrant neighbors. So when I heard he had been put in ICE detention, I rushed out to Newark and was there with his mom and Make the Road New Jersey and all these other activists. And I got to be there when he walked out of that ICE detention facility and gave just an extremely powerful speech about why the rule of law matters and why, for him as a Black mayor in Newark, he wasn't going to throw immigrant Newark residents under the bus. And one line that really stuck with me was when he said, some people are saying to me, why are you putting immigrants over Newark residents? And he said, we are all Newark residents, and we're going to fight for every one of them. And that really is the spirit I'm going to bring to this race.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And what is your plan to protect New York City from Donald Trump?
So first, it's stand up and fight. Eric Adams is showing what it looks like when you bend the knee. And he just was seeking a pardon for his own crimes. And not only is New York City not getting anything from it, we're getting targeted even more. We're the city that Musk stole that 80 million from. We're the city where they're targeting our congestion pricing program, which is improving our air and improving our mass transit. We're the city that now Trump is trying to dictate is going to have ICE on Rikers Island in our correction facility. So I'm going to say no to all of those things and say we enforce New York City's laws. That means ICE won't be in our schools, in our hospitals, in our shelters, won't be in our correction system. And then we're also going to make sure in places where New York City protects people. I give you an example, health and hospitals. New York has this great public hospital system, 11 public hospitals, whole bunch of clinics. They provide abortion, contraception, and gender affirming care. And we don't use federal dollars for any of those things, but I want to make sure we put those things in an independent authority where they're not even in the same bank account with the federal dollars, so we can keep doing them. And then when they try to come and take our Medicaid dollars, we'll be able to say, H&H and its Medicaid dollars, they're got nothing to do with that independent authority. So stand up for the rule of law and stand up to protect New Yorkers who are vulnerable. This is just a kind of authoritarian scapegoating practice. That's all they're doing, is trying to trick people into thinking the reason they can't afford housing, the reason that their jobs don't pay enough, the reason they can't afford childcare is because of our immigrant neighbors. It's the immigrant neighbors who are providing the childcare, or that it's because of trans New Yorkers, even though trans New Yorkers got nothing to do with the reason you can't find affordable housing. So it's being loud and clear, making sure that people understand the bait and switch Trump and his MAGA donors are trying to play, and then just showing how we actually are delivering on affordable housing, on childcare, on a safer city, and on a better run city.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric Adams, he was obviously at the center of this massive federal corruption probe, including several members of his administration. Trump comes to power. We get a new head of the DOJ, and suddenly this corruption case is gone. And Eric Adams is then letting ICE set up shop on Rikers Island as part of their terror campaign in Gulag. So the real lawlessness, as you point out, like this is all just authoritarian scapegoating. The real lawlessness, the crime is coming from inside the house, the White House specifically, and the rise of Eric Adams. Like I think Americans, we're now forced to pay attention to how deeply corrupt he is. And he really flew under the radar in the last mayoral election. So, as the mayor of New York City, how will you clean up crime? And the crime I'm really concerned about is elite criminal impunity.
Yeah. So I actually announced a great plan to strengthen the city's Department of Consumer and Worker Protection to fill in for what the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau aren't going to be doing since Trump shredded them. That includes I stood that day by this amazing CUNY student, Claire Blyler's her name. Came from the Midwest, went to Hunter College, one of CUNY's great schools, got to work in healthcare, was paying her student loans. They were on automatic payment. When loans got suspended, the payment plan got put on pause. Then Trump unsuspended the pause, but her bank didn't start her payments again. And all of a sudden, she's tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and there's nobody there to help her. So we are going to reboot the city's Department of Consumer and Financial Protection to fight for people just like Claire. And one other group of people that we're going to fight for were these deliveristas that I stood with today. So when I was in the city council, I passed a law that makes New York the first place in the country where DoorDash or Uber Eats or seamless delivery workers and Uber and Lyft drivers earn a living wage. And we had to fight like hell against Uber and Lyft and DoorDash to do it. And yesterday I learned that DoorDash is giving $1 million to Andrew Cuomo's super PAC to buy the mayoralty for him. Now, this is a super PAC that's already been shown to be illegally coordinating with his campaign. We've got strong campaign finance laws here. So yesterday, the Campaign Finance Board of New York City fined Andrew Cuomo $622,000 for illegal coordination. On the same day, we learned that DoorDash is giving $1 million to his super PAC and quite explicitly saying, we want New York City to roll back the living wage protections in the law that I passed and took those deliveristas from $6, $7, $8 an hour up to $18 an hour. You don't get rich on $18 an hour, but you could at least pay your rent and feed your family. Yeah, I mean, Andrew Cuomo has the same corrupt model as Donald Trump, the same corrupt model as Eric Adams, do the bidding of corporate donors, erode the city's laws, and screw working people. And what I'm going to do as mayor is just the opposite. I don't have a super PAC. I don't take corporate contributions. I don't take contributions from lobbyists. Fight hard for working people like those delivery workers, like those for-hire drivers, like those students like Claire, so that New York City can be the place that protects them the very best.
Thank you. And Working Families Party is one of your endorsements as well, along with several others, including leading unions in the city.
That's right. So yeah, Working Families Party, which is our coalition of unions and community organizations fighting for working people, has a slate of 4 candidates, me, Zelnor Myrie, Adrian Adams, and Zoran Mamdani, and saying, we've got ranked choice voting here. So you can vote for up to 5 candidates. Of course, I hope people will rank me first.
Yes, they all must.
All right.
Go ahead.
And don't put Andrew Cuomo anywhere on your slate. That would just be replacing one corrupt chaos agent in Eric Adams with another corrupt chaos agent in Andrew Cuomo. Here's somebody who resigned in disgrace after sexually harassing 13 women, sent thousands of seniors to their deaths in nursing homes, and then forced the state health department to lie about the numbers in order to protect his own $5 million deal. He's forced taxpayers to spend $60 million of taxpayer money on his own legal defense, even having his lawyers with taxpayer dollars issue subpoenas for the gynecology and therapy records of his accusers. Like, this is a gross and abusive human who in every situation will do whatever he thinks is in his best interest, including yesterday taking that $1 million to his illegally coordinating super PAC in a transparent telegraphing of screwing the 65,000 immigrant workers that DoorDash and Seamless and Uber Eats want to screw.
It's terrifying that a sexual predator, Andrew Cuomo, becoming mayor of New York when we already have a sexual predator in the White House. Like, I'm raising two girls in this city, and I cannot sleep at night knowing that Andrew Cuomo is in this race. We have to stop him. So could you walk people through how ranked choice voting works? There's so many great progressives in this field. Obviously, you named them. You're my top choice for sure. And I
Thank you.
encourage my listeners to rank Brad Landers number one in ranked choice voting. Don't even put Andrew Cuomo on there. Big fat nothing for him. It's such a crowded field of great progressives. Doesn't that just help Andrew Cuomo, even with the ranked choice voting?
No, as long as you have those working families champions on your ballot, you're voting against Andrew Cuomo in every round. So if you put me first, then in the first round, let's say Andrew Cuomo has the most votes, but he doesn't get a majority. And I go on to the second round, and I still have your vote in that second round. Now, what I'm hoping, what will happen is, candidates who had one of those other candidates first, but have me second or third, if they don't have enough votes to carry on, then I get their votes. And one of the things I have is a real broad coalition. I've got progressive fighters like Jumaane Williams and Antonia Reynoso and Tiffany Caban. And I've got some kind of liberals like Liz Kruger and Andrew Gounardis, a broad coalition. Basically, if people voted last time, folks who voted either for Maya Wiley or for Catherine Garcia in the mayor's race were likely to vote for me for controller. And that's that broad, kind of progressive, liberal, moderate coalition of people who care about the rule of law, who want someone who will fight bullies and protect New Yorkers, and then has experience and a track record to really make government work for working families. So that's my coalition. I pick up the twos and threes from those other candidates. Now, if it should ever happen that, you rank me first and I don't make it to the final round against Andrew, but you have on your ballot second, third, or fourth, whichever candidate that does, then your vote would go to them for that round, and you'll still be voting against Andrew Cuomo all the way up until the end. So no, the ranked choice voting works in a way to make sure you can vote first for who you believe will be the best mayor for the city, and as long as you rank candidates who are going to be there till the end, you're helping make sure Andrew Cuomo does not win. Just as long as he's not on your ballot, you're never helping him win.
Yes, United Front, New York City. I have to tell you, so my parents came to New York City as immigrants. My mother's first sight of America was the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor when she was a little girl. Both my mom and dad were born in World War II refugee camps, and they grew up in New York City. They had their whole courtship in Little Ukraine in the East Village, where Veselka is
Yeah.
today. As proud Ukrainian Americans, like proud New Yorker family. I was born and raised in California by two very loud New Yorkers, so that counts. And I want to thank you on behalf of my family, how as comptroller of New York City, you stood up to Russian corruption. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, you took it upon yourself to say, we're going to divest New York City's pensions from anything Russian related. And that's what you led. So I thank you for doing that.
Of course. I mean, that was so, I'm so proud of the way New York has been there and stood up for Ukraine and Ukrainian refugees. We actually, our tenant in our two-family home is a Ukrainian refugee. I think the world is so chaotic right now. It's like hard for people to remember each thing, but that's one where, New York stands really strong with Ukraine. And look, especially now as we see this axis of fascism from Trump to Putin to Orban to Netanyahu, it is really important for people to remember, like, building democratic values, because it's not only resisting and fighting thing, what's great about New York City, those labor unions are building more just and inclusive workplaces. Being the first city that made it possible for deliveristas to have a living wage comes from organizing. We've got all these housing co-ops and nonprofit housing groups that keep tenants from getting evicted. All these amazing nonprofit cultural institutions, people that are filling up our plazas and open spaces with, celebration, and small business people who are starting their restaurants and businesses. Like New York flourishes with that grassroots democratic energy that's messy a lot of the time, but that is what I love about it and have loved raising my kids here.
So I have to ask you about the climate crisis. We have seen stronger and more destructive hurricanes. My neighborhood here in Brooklyn has gotten flooded, some really massive floods. And the city has obviously invested a lot to try to build up resilience for the climate crisis that's going to get worse and worse. So what is your plan for that?
Yeah. So first, as controller, I have divested our pension funds from fossil fuels, and we have the boldest net zero emissions plan of any public pension fund in the United States. We put pressure on the big banks and got JP Morgan Chase finally to start disclosing their fossil fuel to clean energy ratios. We've been putting pressure on utility companies, on asset managers like BlackRock and State Street, at a time when, unfortunately, a lot of other investors are kind of stepping back. We have been pushing forward. We're going to be net zero by 2040, and we're ahead of schedule. And we're doing it by putting pressure on the companies and the asset managers we invest in, because otherwise we're going to burn up trillions of dollars. Climate risk is financial risk. So that's the work I've been doing as controller. As mayor, I've got a bold plan on climate that includes dramatically shifting the city to clean energy. And unfortunately, Trump is canceling some offshore wind projects, but he can't cancel rooftop solar. And we've got big opportunities to do rooftop solar all across New York City with New York City capital dollars, the same money that pays for our roads and bridges and schools. We can build a huge network of rooftop solar and be doing our share to contribute to renewable energy. I'm going to make sure we implement our dirty buildings law, known as Local Law 97, so that buildings, which are the source of 70% of New York City's emissions, actually shift to renewable energy and reduce their emissions. And then we have a lot of work to do to make sure our neighborhoods are resilient for all the climate crises that we've already seen a lot of them. We saw a coastal storm like Sandy. We've seen flash floods like Ophelia. What we haven't seen yet is a severe heat wave, but that's unfortunately very likely to come in the next few years. And so that means making sure there are cooling centers in every neighborhood, that our seniors have access to life-saving cool spaces, and that our neighborhoods have a network of resiliency that we're not yet really investing in. I come from the affordable housing movement, which was people in their neighborhoods who organized when buildings were abandoned and built community development groups. I'm going to invest in that for climate resiliency, for solid waste, for open space, for transit, so that we not only have the physical infrastructure to keep people safe, but the social infrastructure as well.
Wonderful. And Andrew Cuomo's not going to do that. He's going to let the old folks die when there's a heat wave. So I want to ask you about Local Law 97, because my building, which has to comply by these mandates, which are historic, first in the nation mandates to try to force homeowners across the city to decarbonize, and as a part of the collective mission to reduce the city's overall greenhouse gas output. But it's expensive and it's hard to meet these goals. What financial relief do you have for homeowners to meet these really important green mandates?
But yes, you're absolutely right. A big commercial office building doesn't need the city's help, but co-ops and condos, especially in the outer borough neighborhoods where they're not, wealthy, do need the city's help. There's some tax incentives available that I want to strengthen that can be better aligned to help people meet those Local Law 97 requirements. And I have a plan for a green co-op condo and affordable housing fund that will provide some of the resources that buildings need. And then the last thing is, I mentioned the rooftop solar. The plan I have there is something called Public Solar NYC. It's a public option for rooftop solar that the city itself will pay for and can put on your building to help you meet your energy reduction goals. And we'll rent your roof. pay for it with city capital, and share the energy benefits with you, even as you're also complying with local law.
That's fantastic. So I do have to say, in my condo in Brooklyn, when I present my neighbors at our annual meeting with a plan, like here's how we're going to meet these green mandates, and I present all these cool projects to reduce our carbon emission, and then when the price tag comes, no one wants to do it. And the refrain, which makes perfect sense, is, well, what about those massive corporations that created this problem in the first place? Why can't they just pay for this?
Yes, well, they should be, and in part they will be. Liz Krueger passed this great corporate polluters superfund law at the state level, and I'm hoping that will be one of the sources for this green affordable housing and co-ops and condos fund that I'll create as mayor. So yes, we should get the resources from the polluters, whether they're buildings or corporations, and then, use matching funds and incentives to help offset the cost of buildings like yours.
Well, thank you so much, Brad Lander, national treasure, New York City hero, who everyone needs to rank first, and don't rank Cuomo at all because he's a predator and he's going to get us all killed. We have enough oligarchy and corruption as there is. So thank you. Thank you. How can people help out your campaign? What should we all be doing between now and when early voting starts mid-June?
So you can go to landerfornyc.com, spelled out LANDERFORNYC.com, and get involved. We're out at subways, at farmers markets, knocking doors, talking to voters, emailing and using social media, because of course that's how so many people, a lot of people are still not paying attention to this mayor's race. I'm almost to the fundraising cap, but I'm not quite there. So people would contribute. If you're a New York City resident, your contribution will get matched 8-1. And we're trying to get all the fundraising done by May 19th, the next deadline, in just 1 week. So that would really help. But most important is to get the word out to your neighbors about how important this race is. A lot of people are kind of distracted by Trump and the times we're living in and have not yet focused on it. Some people even have like some pandemic haze in their brain about Cuomo. Letting people know this is a corrupt predator. We will not be having him on our ballot. If you want a candidate who's going to bring honest and effective leadership back to City Hall and deliver a safer, more affordable, more inclusive, less corrupt, and better run New York City, Brad Lander's your candidate. Don't rank Andrew Cuomo. That would be hugely helpful, and I will be immensely grateful.
Thank you so much, Brad Lander, New York City's next mayor.
Thank you. This was great.